Right. Good afternoon. And thanks very much for joining us for this session. Can you hear me at the back? Yeah, good. Okay, great. So I'm going to talk about, my name's Tom Kilroy, I'm the CEO at Keyloop. I'm going to talk about digital transformation and what consumers want. I nearly had a digital journey mishap myself earlier, so thanks to the iVendi guys who nearly sold me a Ford Transit. I was one click away from having a long wheelbase Transit on the drive with only 2,000 miles. So fortunately didn't do that, but I'm going to talk to you about what we have found in our own research that we've done, and also some other research that other people have. So the stuff I want to cover today is, I mean, a pivotal moment for automotive retail. You'd probably expect me to say that, but I just want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of trends in other industries. Also a little bit about the way in which COVID has brought the future forward in terms of consumer expectations. I want to talk about our consumer research, something about the sales experience, but I also want to spend a little bit of time on the after-sales experience as well. In the end, it is probably the most frequent interaction that people have with automotive retail, and there is a lot to do in terms of digitizing that journey too. And then we've got some stuff on actual consumer voices. So this material is going to be available to you. I think I'm right in saying it's going to be put up on the website. And we do also have a digital microsite with all of this data in it, and I'll give you the address of that at the end so you don't have to write all these numbers down. Okay, so can I ask for a show of hands, who doesn't have a landline telephone at home? Okay, now I think if you'd have asked that question 10 years ago and certainly 15 years ago, you probably would have been surprised to see how many people answered yes to that. So the first thing I just want to say is when technology disrupts, it can happen quickly. It can happen faster than you expect. 1 minute you're thinking, I can't really see it happening, maybe a few people, and the next there's a tipping point and stuff goes. Now we've seen it in other industries. If you think about industries like banking, you might say, okay, yeah, so who banks online? Show of hands? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Now, you know, bank branches, of course, we've seen them close, but there is a difference, of course. It's not a physical product, right? You don't need to go somewhere. There's no physical product, but food is a physical product, and even restaurants are being heavily affected by digitization. It's possible to sit at home and eat Chinese and Italian and Indian at the same table, having ordered them to be delivered to your home through delivery or similar service. And each of you can decide what you want to eat that evening, and you can have dinner together, and you can all eat different food. Now, again, that's a physical product. How they deliver it, whether it's a dark kitchen or it's actually coming from the restaurant itself, it slightly depends. But again, it's another area where digitization is disrupted quickly, and people's expectations and experience is now very different to what it was even 5 years ago. So auto retail has an enormous potential for digital transformation. But one of the things I want to focus on is the fact that customers want choice. Now, I know it seems obvious to say that, but customers want choice. And you're going to see in some of the data that the acceptance rates are different by different markets. They're also different by different age groups. And we'll just get into a little bit of that. So key factors influencing this, it's kind of pressure coming from all sides. Pressure from the consumer, including post-COVID expectations, and also pressure from the OEMs, increasingly wanting to access end customers themselves, but also wanting to access the data that comes with those customers and bring that together with the vehicle data for a better overall customer experience. So for auto retailers, this is definitely a period where the players around them, both their customers and the OEMs, are pushing for change. So where are we heading? Well, at the moment, online sales of vehicles globally, about 2.3 to 2.5 million units. So that's not much, right? It's 3% of global car sales, but it is increasing very fast. So 100% since 2019, and that rate of growth is continuing. So at the moment, most people haven't bought a car online. And for most people, it probably is still one click too far. They'll maybe reserve it, they still want to see it, and we'll look at the importance of the test drive in a minute. But there are different patterns in different regions. So this is data from a YouGov survey, came out recently. So you can see that in the US and Europe, expectation to be able to buy a car online is lower, But actually, if you start looking at Asia-Pacific markets, and then also in UAE, in the Middle East, you can see more propensity for people to buy cars that way. And so there is going to be a difference by region. At the moment in the UK, only 14% of vehicles are currently purchased online. So, but who's likely to buy a car online? First of all, younger buyers. I'm not clear that millennials are actually that young anymore, but Gen Z are younger than millennials, and you can see that there is an increasing trend. This does change with age. So the expectation is higher for younger buyers, and those are coming into the market now. They're the people who are going to be buying the next generation of cars. And then people have already tried it. So we see this in everything that you do. I don't think I'm going to bank online. I try banking online, it's pretty convenient, and then I carry on doing it. It's exactly the same with this. So high propensity for people to repeat the behavior if they've done it before. And what are their priorities? Of course, slightly again varying by market, but the basic most important thing is speed and convenience. People want to be able to do at least parts of the journey through the digital mechanisms. That way they can get a faster overall transaction. And post-COVID, what we're seeing is that look, 63%, 53%, think about it as about half. About half are saying they want more information about vehicles online than they did before COVID, and about half are happy to experience the features partially digitally or completely digitally. And again, this is driven by the experiences they have in the rest of their life. If you're prepared to start buying clothes online, it's obviously important how they look, but people do that, and they will be prepared to form their views about a vehicle if the presentation online provides them with enough information to understand what it is that they're getting. And again, around about half again with each of these data points, but half of people want to be able to ask questions about models or features. They want to interact with the dealers digitally before. They want to get the advice about pricing or financing, and they also want to be able to ask online about test drive availability. So again, these are not overwhelming majorities, but what you're seeing here is that there's a significant part of that group that wants to be able to do this as a digital mechanism. But I mentioned the fact that it is a physical product, and the test drive and actually seeing the vehicle in the flesh does remain, in our research, we see that as being an important factor that people still want, which is not surprising. And here is some data about the importance of the value of the test drive. And if you look at the second to right column there for the UK, I think the important bit is that overwhelmingly, you still have people saying, I have to see the vehicle before buying it. That is a high percentage, nearly 80%. And around 60% saying, I have to test drive the vehicle before I buy it. So those are still significant numbers, but you can see that then it starts to drop off, right? By the time you get, I want personal contact, I don't feel comfortable buying online, the percentages around that are much lower. And I think in the end, it's important that different people are going to want to do different things, but the overwhelming number of people will still, at the moment, want to see a vehicle. It's a big purchase. They want to make sure they see it. So we've done research on this. We did this with Frost & Sullivan. I would encourage you to download this report. It's available on our website. We've done research into digital transformation, and we asked over 600 people from 6 countries what their preferences are. And some of this data we haven't published before, so we'll unpack it now. So we think that the right way to describe it is that, and if you just take one thing away from this discussion, is we really think it is a flexible and personalized, digitally enabled journey that is important. It is about choice. If you try to shoehorn people into one option or another, I think you will get people rejecting it. Not everybody wants to do things the same way. They want to find their own way through the journey. For some of them, they will be happy not to see the vehicle, and for many of them, they will want to see the vehicle. And so we think the most important thing, and now I'm going to focus first of all on the sales experience and then on the after-sales experience. What matters most to UK car buyers does differ a little bit if they're buying online versus buying in person. So buying online, you do see that the highest item, 91%, overwhelmingly almost everybody, thinks that having all the relevant vehicle information readily available is important. And if they don't have that, it isn't going to meet their needs. So this is overwhelmingly everybody. And then, of course, price, easy to use the website, And then the reputation of the website is obviously important to them as well. And that's not totally dissimilar then to some of these things in the physical dealership. Obviously, again, price, helpful and knowledgeable people, reputation of the dealership, some of those things are the same, but the completeness of the information available online is really important. So when they're buying online, you can see that that one is overwhelmingly the most important thing that people want. And that's across all markets. So that ties in with what I was saying about people still see the desire to go to the dealership, and we think it's going to be a combination of both. In the end, we think people want the advice at the dealership, and they want to be able to explore their options online, and they're going to want to be able to make choices about whether they buy the vehicle or book the service online, and we'll come on to after sales in a second. So there's a very high propensity to engage with the dealership through digital tools. So as a communication channel, it's something that people want. And really, when you see data like 96%, that's really pretty much everybody would like the ability to book an extended test drive online. So a lot of the interaction people want to have is through this mechanism. And again, this top one is and the bottom one here are overwhelming. Essentially, 84% would consider a transparent fixed price if buying a new car online. So this goes to the question of, do people want to debate the price? Some people do. Some people really want to avoid that. So giving them the opportunity to choose one or the other is what it's all about. Around half of people are not comfortable with price negotiations, and I'm actually surprised it's not higher than that. I think there is a significant set of people that feel that way. And of course, again, 80% of people want to be able to sign their documentation online. And I mean, if you think about it, at the moment, you go into the dealership, often it can be an experience with a lot of paper, it can take a long time. And equally, you can be at home and filling out the forms with a glass of wine after dinner or whatever it is. And right now, you can get a mortgage approved in principle online in about 20 minutes, right? That's a much bigger transaction and a much longer one for the consumer than the time they own a car. And I think we have to take that as a benchmark, because if it's possible to get a mortgage approved in principle, you should be able to do your car purchase and then car finance online as well. So we see this as the customer sales journey, the time when people are considering what they're going to do, marketing, virtual showroom, the ability to see the vehicle as you explore it here, a video walkthrough of the vehicle valuation via video, the ability to communicate with the dealership, and then visit the dealership, obviously, for the in-store appointment, for the test drive, whatever it happens to be. Now, people are going to want to find their own way through this journey, and it's going to be important to provide them with choice. And then the purchase phase, people want the excitement of getting a new car to be what they concentrate on when they're in the dealership. It should be a great experience, right? You're getting a new car, or you're picking up your used car, and it's the first time you've got it. It should be something that doesn't take 3 hours filling out lots of paperwork. And the great advantage, of course, with online stuff is that you can keep fantastic audit trails. It's extremely friendly for ensuring that you're complying with regulation. And then increasingly, obviously, you see disruptors providing new vehicle delivery to home or else pick up the vehicle in the dealership. So the sales experience, I think, is talked about a lot in the media. You can read this kind of thing in a lot of places. There's a lot of attention on it, much less so the after-sales experience. But this goes into the category of, it might seem boring, but it's actually really important, because in the end, people are going to the dealership for service more frequently than they are buying a car. So actually, most of their experience with the retailer is going to be the after-sales. So this is, again, a pretty overwhelming statistic, which is that in our research, over 80% of people are saying they'd like to use digital tools in the after-sales experience. They want to be able to book their service online, and they want to be able to communicate with their dealership online. So obviously, service booking, but also secure key lockers, and there are a couple of our partners here showing that kind of capability, digital documentation, video updates, but also critically as well, online payments. So, you just need the whole thing to be less hassle than it is at the moment. That's really what people want, is remove the difficult bits for me. Let me concentrate on the question of, do I want the work done? Has everything that needs to be done to the car been done? Have I got a fair price? Was I able to prove the work? And could I pay for it using a secure link? So service booking and vehicle drop-off. 70% telling us they'd like to be able to book the service online. It also gives them the opportunity to upload all the information that they want to give to the dealership about what needs to be done to the vehicle. So whether you take that in text form and they enter it, or it can be a video where they're talking to the service manager on video and saying, here, there's I've got a challenge with the car in the following respect. Can you look at it when it comes in? The more of that is done in advance, frankly, the more efficient the retailer can be on the day. And that's good for the consumer, but it's also good for the retailer. And around about 45% tell us that they would use a secure key locker to drop off their vehicle keys at the dealership. And again, that's about half, but again, if you try it, and if you actually experience it and it works, then like many of these things, the people who will do it are the people who tried it before. So it's new, haven't tried it, I'm not sure, maybe, maybe not. Give it a try, and if it's convenient, if it works for you, then you will repeat that behavior. Again, this is now very popular, of course, communication by text, but also by video while the vehicle is undergoing its service. But I think the key thing that helps with is the question of, do I have confidence in what's going on? Do I trust the decisions that are being made about my vehicle? Or is it being held hostage for the day? People want to be able to say, I see what's happening, and I get a chance to participate in improving that. And again, payments and paperwork for service, there is nothing more frustrating than having to queue to pay for your service when the vehicle's ready and all you want to do is pick it up and drive it away. And often that queue can take quite a long time. It depends obviously on the particular dealership. But again, that's something that people want to do before they come in. And if they can pay over the phone or with an email or a text, then that is something which at least half of people say they would do. And again, I think that's the kind of thing where as people do it, increasingly we'll see it become the norm. So we see this is just a pause on this for a minute. We see a digitally enhanced after-sales experience that looks a bit like this, where you see the customer getting the reminder to have the service, filling out information and booking the car in remotely before they arrive, managing changes to the booking online so that they can make changes when they're sitting at their desk or sitting at home, arrive at the workshop, leave the key very quickly, be able to authorize work during the course of the day. They pick the vehicle up, they know when it's going to be ready, and they know when it's going to be ready. And that's an important point too, because again, if you think about the digital experiences people have in the rest of their lives, when you get a parcel delivered to your home, very often there'll be a link saying you can track the driver, they're going to be there between 2 and 3. It doesn't really matter to you if it arrives at 2:05 or 2:55, but what you can do is say, right, I'm going to be in for the afternoon, I go shopping in the morning, I'm not going to miss the parcel because I don't know when it's coming. And again, the same with transparency. Where is my vehicle in the service workflow? When am I going to get it back? Has it gone in for valeting? When can I actually pick it up? And what people want is guidance so that they can build their lives around not having to spend the whole day chasing the dealership saying, when's the car going to be ready? So we have some consumer voices, and maybe some of these will resonate. These are the things that people tell us, and these are all real users and their experience. So when I drop the car off to get it serviced, no one ever calls me to tell me it's ready. I have to call them every single time. Now, I know that's not everywhere, but this is real consumer experience, right? I get anxious that my car won't be fixed on time, and there won't be a courtesy car available. I can't manage without my car, not even for a day. It's essential that I have it. It's really important for people. It's stressful not knowing how much things are going to cost until after the service begins. And the service advisor was busy. I had to wait for a long time. There's really no reason to wait. If you can pay and you can pick up the keys, you can just get going. And then the lack of timely and relevant communication, that probably sums up how people feel at the moment. There needs to be more timely and more transparent communication. That doesn't necessarily mean real-time communication about everything that's happening, but it means making it transparent enough that the consumer can engage with the dealership. So if you look at this, then ask yourself the question, how many more customers could you attract if you engage with them virtually before the dealership visit? How long do customers spend waiting in the different departments at the dealership at the moment? In some of them, it's a lot. How much time could be saved for employees if customers were able to carry out the tasks remotely by themselves. I mean, to take the analogy of banking again, the reality is when you're doing that, you're doing the bank's work for them. You're sitting at home, doing the bank's work for them, moving money around from paying people, bills like that. All that kind of thing is you taking on the work, and the reality is the consumer is happy to do it because then they know what's happening. And it's exactly the same. Let's ask them to complete tasks before they arrive and make it quicker for them when they're on site. And again, how much could you increase your customer satisfaction with that kind of improved communication, both in the sales journey and the after-sales journey? There's no question that there is demand for it, and the question is, how are we going to respond? So, if just to summarize then, and here's the link then to the microsite that we've got, which summarizes our research. But we believe from this research, it's not just an opinion, from what people are telling us, there's huge consumer demand for improved digital experiences in automotive retail, similar to the experiences they have in the rest of their lives. Online car purchasing is going to continue to grow, but it won't be for everyone. And we don't think that it's some kind of overnight step change, but people are going to want to be able to do parts of that experience online. The key is personalization. There's one thing, it's like personalize the experience for people, give them the choice, give them the option to go this way or that, depending on what works for them. So in-person and digital experiences need to work in tandem. If you start doing something on the computer at home, you don't want to arrive at the dealership and have to do it all over again, talking to the service manager as you book the car in. So persistence across all of those states is incredibly important. And then in the end, people want both sales and after sales. They're asking for help in after sales too. And if we prioritize the integration of these digital tools as a whole, there's no question that we can drive up satisfaction of consumers generally with all auto retailers. There is a benefit for the industry as a whole to be perceived as leading on this topic. And that is, if anything, there's one message. We think that's the future. And so I think I have a few minutes to take questions if anyone has any. Yeah. I think we need a microphone, right? So, because they're recording this, so otherwise they won't be able to hear you.
Thank you. Great presentation, Tom. Sorry, it's not very good. Obviously, it's very heavily focused on the digital space, which you'd expect. Obviously, with all the stats that you've given, how important do you feel in this process the phone call still is to dealerships?
Well, it is for some people, because of course, if you want to impart information about something to do with the car, for some people, the phone call is the way they want to interact. You know, especially now people are calling on their mobiles, it may be convenient for them to do that. But I think, well, again, it's about the choice, right? So if somebody says, I want to be contacted by text, or just send me the text, I'll fill the details out, you know, everybody's different. So, but do I think phone forms part of it? Yes, definitely, yeah. Yeah, no worries.
Just two questions for me. So the first question was around the start, about 60% of consumers wanting to buy online. Now I've heard very different interpretations about buying online and what that actually means. So for you, I just wanted to confirm, do you mean buying online the entire end-to-end customer journey? That's question one. And then the second was the start around consumers wanting to see the vehicle before buying it. Is that true across consumers looking to buy used and new cars, or is it one or the other?
Yes, so that's both, right? So, I mean, the question of like, I want to see the car before I buy it is for both new and used. I mean, people want to at least physically see something that, you know, if it's used, definitely. So that stat applies to both. Look, the question of what constitutes an online purchase, and if you reserve it online, rather than go all the way through and pay everything online. I mean, can I just ask the audience, has anybody actually done a complete end-to-end online transaction to buy a vehicle? Okay, we have a few over here. A few went all the way through, bought the car, never saw it until you got it. You pleased with it? Haven't got it yet. Okay, well, let us know. But I think you're right. I think actually the reality right now of people going all the way to the endpoint is lower than that. I mean, I've heard very large CEOs of large retail groups tell me they get 0.6% really ultimately click and say, so I think, but I think it's going to change. Some people will. Other questions? Okay, well, look, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And like I say, we've got this website, and do go there and you can download the paper that we did on digitalization. Thank you.